Well, welcome back to Algorhythm Holdings, a channel shaping intelligent futures on the NASDAQ under RIME. We're privileged to be joined by CEO Gary Atkinson to kind of take us through, the addressable market, what's going on with the company in 2026, and the story that's being missed here on the value disconnect. But first and foremost, welcome, sir.
Thank you, Kyle. Pleasure to be back.
Always,
Appreciate it.
yeah, always a pleasure to get you back on. So I guess just for newer audiences, you guys have a lot going on, but maybe let's break down the basics here. Maybe tell us, the problem that, Algorithm Holdings is addressing here and kind of what it means for the market and the impact that it's having.
Yeah, no, I think it's important. I think there's definitely a big disconnect between the size of the problem that we're trying to solve and I think the credit that we're getting for it, right? And so a lot of people they ask me, hey, they know we're in AI, they know we're in truckload transportation, logistics, supply chain, but they don't exactly know what it is we're doing. And so I really think it's important, especially for like maybe a new time viewer that isn't as familiar with the story, for me to just break it down to the beginning and sort of talk about what it is we're trying to solve. So, right now today, the global truckload transportation market is a $3 trillion a year market. And the crazy thing is that roughly a third of that, so 1 trillion out of that $3 trillion market is waste. And that's waste in the form of empty miles. And so a nice analogy that I like to tell people is, imagine you're the CEO of Delta Airlines or United Airlines or any airline carrier that's out there. If I told you that one out of every three flights that you operate is going to be 100% empty, not a single passenger on that plane, one out of three flights, you would just tell me that's absurd. You would do everything in your power to fill that plane with as many passengers as you could. And yet today in the truckload industry, that's not happening. It globally, the standard right now, 66% of trucks are being utilized, which is roughly a third waste. And so, right now the industry is really not looking to attack that problem. It's not an execution problem. It's not that XYZ trucking companies are just not executing properly. That's not the issue. The issue is this systemic problem that's pervasive within the entire industry. And I mean, we can certainly spend time and break down, the details of how that's happening. But I mean, basically the point being is that 33% waste that's happening in the truckload industry, that's being paid for by consumers, that's being paid for by the shippers, by the carriers, by the environment in the form of wasted fuel and CO2 emissions that are unnecessary. So there's all of the, literally $1 trillion of waste. And the only company that we know of that's solving this problem is us through our subsidiary SemiCap Holdings. And so, look, we've been making a lot of great headway here in the last quarter to two to tackle that problem. And let me just spend a minute talking about our platform and how we're different, right? So there's many ways to solve the problem. You have guys, let's say guys like these digital freight brokers like Uber Freight, for instance. They all think they can solve this problem through just scale. Like, hey, let's get as big as we possibly can. Let's have as much volume and density as we can possibly get our hands on. And just through scale alone, we're going to solve the problem. And clearly that's not the answer, because Uber Freight, you can see a lot of their metrics through their public filings. They're running at only 66% utilization as well. So they're clearly not solving this problem. So scale, it's important. It's one important piece of the pie, but it's not the end all be all. And so the secondary part to the equation that we offer that no one else is offering is we have that layer of intelligence, right? So that's that AI layer that's running on top of, like, you can imagine you're a shipper, you're running a traditional TMS system, a transportation management system. It's kind of a dumb system. There's really no like layer of intelligence that's running on that. Our platform is essentially a TMS, but running that AI intelligence layer on top. And what the single most important thing that we're doing is we are optimizing all of the loads coming through our system specifically for utilization. So we're looking to take that 66% utilization upwards to 90% and beyond if we can get there. And the way that's working is we've got that basically sort of these AI algorithms that are constantly looking at every single load 24/7, and it's running up to millions of permutations on if this, then that, right? So if a truck breaks down and it's delayed by a day, how is the network going to adapt and restructure how the loads are being executed and delivered to be able to maintain that high utilization rate? Because frankly, right now, the way the market works, if you're a digital freight broker, all you're doing is you're taking a load and you're pairing it up to a carrier, and that's it. You care the load gets picked up, you care that the load gets dropped off, but you don't care what happens to that truck after that truck gets delivers its goods. Where our platform specifically is, we're worried about, yes, we got to pick up on time, yes, we have to deliver on time, but hey, where's that truck going next? That's very important to us. And so the system is, it's like a big math problem. And it's just basically, our approach is we are running a network. We're building a network where eventually we believe, I mean, tens of thousands of shippers, carriers will all be on this network. And the more volume that goes on the network, the better that network is, the more efficient it is, the more opportunities there are for it to find um, round trips, we like to call them. And so that's what we're doing. We're building a network for truckload transportation, and it hasn't been done. It's a very, very sort of audacious goal. But again, this is a $1 trillion a year global problem that we're trying to solve. And look, we're winning. I mean, we're getting just yesterday we announced we just landed an expansion with Unilever in India.
Yeah,
And
incredible.
I can certainly go down the list of customers, but
Yeah,
there's
maybe
a reason why.
can you speak a little bit more to like what's going on right now, I guess in 2026? Because as you mentioned, I mean, you guys have a lot going on with semi-cab. Do you want to just talk about kind of the growth you're heading into in 2026 and what the core focus is on the expansion side? Because I mean, it'd be
Yep.
great to get an understanding of the foundation you have, but where is it taking us now?
Right. So we just announced that this was a couple weeks ago, right at the end of 2025. We just passed the $10 million run rate, which for us is sort of the number we were anticipating exiting 2025. We'd started the year at about 2.5. So we've grown the business pretty significantly over 2025. In 26, we have some pretty ambitious goals. I mean, we're looking to double the business again for this year. Um, from a top line revenue run rate perspective. For me, this is all about growth, right? We know that we're a micro cap stock. We know that growth is king in this space, and so we're trying to take on as much growth as we can, as responsibly as possible, knowing that we don't have unlimited resources, right? We have only X amount of cash, and we're sort of resource constrained, but we do have a lot of low-hanging fruit where we can lean in and we can grow pretty quickly. And so that's the plan for this year. Now, I think, the area that we're really trying to push on hard is the US market, because we know that, the US trucking market is I think, $500 billion a year, give or take, industry. You've got some of the sort of the biggest shippers and carriers in the world that are here in the U.S. So it's a huge market. Obviously, generally our investors are all in the U.S. market. So it's important for us to have a presence here and to show growth. And the reason why I like the U.S. market is because we've just announced the launch of our new SaaS product, which we've called Semi-Cab Apex. And I'm sure you're familiar with SaaS businesses. The margins are fantastic, right? The margins on that are upwards of 90% gross margins. And so it's important for us to establish a foothold here in the U.S. and to be able to bring that that sort of 90% utilization of a truck to the U.S. market. And that's what we're doing now is we're focusing on that. We're building out a sales team right now. We've just hired a few key salespeople to launch in the U.S. market here, and we get that opportunity to leverage all the wins in India. We have all the data and all of the metrics, and we have some of the best who's who customers in the world, and we're able to leverage all of that and try to bring that messaging here to the U.S.
Yeah, and you guys are scaling right now, as you mentioned, with revenue actually increasing against a market cap that is relatively small in comparison. And this seems like a good year. I mean, small caps are starting to get attention again. Markets are getting hot. I mean, if there's one, maybe a couple reasons, if you can kind of boil it down, why should investors be paying attention now?
Well, look, I think we're at a great inflection point here. I think the reason that investors should care is, look at the size of the market opportunity that we're going after. Look at the list of customers that we're doing business with. I mean, we're dealing with the biggest and best Fortune 500, blue chip companies in the world. We've got Procter and Gamble, Unilever, we just announced yesterday, Kellanova, which is Kellogg's, Apollo Tire, Asian Paints, which is basically the Sherwin-Williams of Asia. I mean, these are massive, massive, massive shippers that are trusting us. I mean, they are literally putting their trust in us because they're big believers in the platform. They think that what we're doing is unique. It's novel. I mean, something I didn't even touch on earlier is, you know, why would a customer like a Unilever want to expand with us? It's because we give them the ability to take advantage of some of the freight that, let's say, Procter and Gamble's doing, right? So our whole platform is designed to be collaborative, where a shipper that comes onto our network, they get the benefit of having other customers that they don't have to get into a contractual relationship with that might have a truck that just happens to be going from one city to another that directly benefits them. So everybody that comes onto the network is getting the benefit of the work that the others are doing. And we get to be sort of that neutral layer. We're a neutral third party that is helping some of the biggest companies in the world coordinate collaboratively. And I think it's unique. There's no one else that's doing anything like this. And I think the US market will be a great market for this type of opportunity. So I'm excited. I think this is going to shape up to be a great year. But we just, we need people to really sort of understand and recognize that what we're doing is really special, and I think it can be very disruptive to the current industry.
On that note, we'll pass it off to the viewers always. We'd love to know what you think in that comment section, but consider subscribing for news catalysts as it comes down the wire like this. Of course, we'll bring it to you here. But on that, we look forward to catching you in the next one.